What's going on, everybody in YouTube land? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to catch you up on the Giant Home Edition project. I figure what better time than the present to catch you up on the Giant Home Edition project. For years now, this house we're living in now has been way too small for me, my wife, and my children to live and grow up in. There's absolutely no room to expand, so a Home Edition project has been on the agenda for quite a few years now. During the planning phase of this project, we decided that instead of paying somebody else to do it, we were just going to do it ourselves to free up a lot of funding into putting back into materials and making the house bigger. We decided that since the house is going to be bigger, we might as well add in a little home daycare so my wife can no longer work for somebody else but work for herself and be her own boss. So with clear-cut goals in mind, I did a little bit of reading, made up a plan of action, and we got to work.
To start off with, there was a giant tree stump in the yard that needed to be removed so it wouldn't be in the way when we got to work. We then had a block mason come in, level the lot, dig, pour the footer, and then lay the foundation block for us. Once the footer was done, we spent quite a bit of time building and starting to finish up some of the things on my garage before we got back into working on the house. The wife and I backfilled the area inside of the footer, smoothed out any high or low areas so that we could lay out plastic and create a sealed crawl space. I ended up borrowing my brother's tractor and a friend's dump trailer and got to work adding dirt over the footer walls. Now, I didn't have any guidance but a couple YouTube videos on how to run a tractor, as it's not something I've ever had to do before, but it didn't seem like that difficult of a thing to do. Towards nightfall, we had almost gotten the area backfilled. I ended up smacking the footer wall with the front bucket of the tractor, knocking about a third of the wall partially down. We decided to give up for the night and finish up the next morning since I now had to get the wall prepped and ready to be fixed. The day after that, the guys came out and got the wall back together, so then it was ready to move on to the plastic. The plastic took a little while. It wasn't quite the hardest thing in the world to do, but with a little help, we got it knocked out and ready to go. Finally, it was time to start the center beam and roll the joists. Overall, the center beam went fairly smoothly as well as the joists. My brother and I knocked out the joist and moved on to the subfloor in a fairly quick fashion, and within a couple days the entire downstairs floor was complete and ready to go. Once the floor was done, it was time to move on to the walls. I decided to do 10-foot ceiling because why not, right? The walls went together pretty quickly with the help of another family friend, and we knocked out all the downstairs walls in a short period. At least it was fairly quick considering there was only two of us. Once the walls stood in place, we made headers and such, and went ahead with getting the windows and doors set up and ready to move on. With the downstairs walls being fully complete, it was time to start doing plywood on the outside and also putting up the floor trusses on the second story. We chose to do free-span trusses. That way there would be no load-bearing walls downstairs whatsoever. The plywood going up on the first few rows went fairly easy, but the floor trusses ended up being a little bit bigger of a task than I first thought it would be. After phoning a few friends and getting some more muscle on the case, we ended up knocking them out without much hassle, other than the fact that we were missing 7 trusses. I guess when we ordered them, we ordered the wrong amount. So being 7 trusses short, we moved on to doing the staircase and moving all the material we needed up top for later. Since the trusses would take up to 8 weeks, we picked up a tarp large enough to cover the entire structure just to keep the water out. I then ended up building the space out where there was no floor trusses on the other side of the stairs, using some conventional joists just to fill the void. After a number of weeks had passed, the missing trusses finally showed up, and we were able to move along with getting the trusses in place and laying down the subfloor. Once the subfloor was down, same with the downstairs, we moved on to knocking out the walls up top. Overall, the walls went up pretty easily, although it was a bit scary as none of us wanted to drop them off the top and have to go chase them down after they was assembled. Once the walls were assembled, we moved on to getting some of the headers in above the windows, putting some plywood on the outside. As we did some plywood on the outside, we also decided it was time to put up some trusses. We were worried about doing the trusses for a good long while, but they didn't end up being as big of a job once we built a crane. After pulling the first truss up, we made it into a gable, put plywood on it, and got it into place. Once that gable end went up, the next day we started laying out some trusses. The crane made things so much easier, we were able to use it to set the trusses in place, get them tacked where they needed to go, and move on along. Once all the trusses were in place, we had to build the fascia boards all the way around the outside and get the plywood down in place so we could then finish it up with some metal.
So that brings us to where we're at right now. The house is completely wrapped the whole way around, but I haven't had the motivation to really do the windows yet since I can't do the upstairs. Being scared of heights makes it hard to do anything above about halfway up that house. So doing the upstairs windows and the rest of the siding and the soffit and the gutters and all that's going to be quite the problem. I did go ahead and put in the front door. I was tired of the big wooden door I had on there temporarily, but that looks a lot better and works a whole lot easier. Moving inside, we haven't got a whole ton of stuff done in here, but pretty soon I'm gonna have to jump back on it and get this all the way wrapped up. The windows along one side are in. The windows along this side, I have went ahead and pre-drilled the 4 corners of it so I can go back in and cut the plywood out and be able to install the windows. Just haven't made it there yet. When I was trying to do that, it was raining basically every single day and I didn't really want to get out there when it was wet and try to do it. Moving along towards this direction, I do have the center divider wall up between the living room and the daycare room. I have bedroom, bathroom, and the kitchen gonna be over there. I've got these two most of the way framed out. I do gotta install a header above the door and get doors put in. That door needs to go in that hole, but I still need to cut that out. The corner back here is gonna be a little bit dark, but I did get rid of this window here, so I framed it in to be able to just sheetrock right over it. Countertops right here, so this window is gonna be too tall, so I shortened it up and ordered a custom, well, not custom, but I ordered a new window to go in there. So we got it ready to go when we do all the rest of the windows. The bathroom is basically laid out the way we're gonna have it, just to kind of mock it up, see where things are gonna fall. The next step back here is gonna be trying to get the plumbing marked, the holes drilled, get the plumbing started. I'm not a plumber, but gonna do it myself anyways. Now I'm not a plumber, but I'm gonna try to attempt that stuff anyways. A little bit of reading should go a long way on that. Tell me what I need to do, what I don't need to do and such. That brings us to the upstairs. Now I'm not gonna give you the exact layout of what I'm gonna do up here, but basically there's gonna be bedrooms up here. The windows are mostly in. For whatever reason, I got this one stud off, so I do gotta rip out this one, move it over and put it all back in to where it actually needs to be. All the windows up here need the bottom sills put in. I didn't know if I was gonna change the window size up here to be a little bit shorter so they'd offset the taller ones down there, so where it's 10-foot ceilings there, 8-foot ceilings up here, but we went ahead and just put the same windows up here. I made a little bit of a TikTok or whatever on installing that door. That goes over to my bedroom, so I could get over here and back without having to go outside and whatnot. All in all, this has been a heck of a process. It's been really rewarding, but it's been a lot of work. Moving forward, I'm gonna have to get back on this thing really soon. Probably start with getting all the windows in, getting the walls upstairs framed in and everything else, get all the doors in and whatnot. Then we get working on plumbing, electrical, and just trying to finish things in. That basically concludes episode 1 of the DIY Hobbyist Home Edition. Till the next time, catch you later.